You got everything you wanted, the money, the apartment, the car. So why do you feel like you're dying inside? Let's go back, way back, before the money, before any of this. Remember being broke? Not, I can't afford a vacation, broke. Checking your bank account and holding your breath, broke. Praying the card goes through at the grocery store. Calculating whether you can afford gas or lunch. Not both. One. You know that feeling. That low-grade anxiety that never goes away. That voice in the back of your head every single day whispering, "You're not enough. You don't have enough. You're falling behind." Maybe you were 22, sitting in a tiny bedroom that smelled like old carpet. Maybe you were 26, watching the clock at a job you hated. Maybe you were sleeping on an air mattress, eating the same meal 4 days straight. Whatever your version of broke looked like, you remember the shame. Sitting at dinner with friends, quietly doing math in your head while they ordered drinks. Watching people your age flex on Instagram, the cars, the trips, the lifestyle, and feeling this burn in your chest, not jealousy. Well, okay, maybe a little, but mostly hunger. This deep, raw hunger to make it, to never feel that way again, and you made yourself a promise. One day I will have money, and when I do, everything will be different. Hold on to that promise, because this entire story is about what happens when it comes true. So you got to work. Not the motivational poster version of work, the ugly version. You woke up early when everyone else was asleep. You stayed up late when everyone else was watching Netflix. You said no, a lot. The birthday parties you skipped, I have work. The relationships you let go cold, I've just been so busy. The hobbies you quietly abandoned, the weekends that stopped existing. And here's the thing, nobody tells you about the grind. It feels good. At first, every win, no matter how small, releases dopamine. You're building something, you're moving, you're in the game. And you told yourself a story. I'll rest when I hit 6 figures. I'll slow down after this next launch. I'll reconnect with everyone when this phase is over. You kept moving the finish line, but you didn't notice because you were running too fast to look up. And here is what the grind actually costs. Not money, not time, you. The version of you who called people just to talk. The version who had a favourite song, a favourite restaurant, a favourite way to waste a Saturday afternoon. That version got quieter. Then quieter. Then one day, you realised you couldn't remember the last time you did something just because it made you happy. But you pushed that thought down. Because the money was coming, and the money was going to fix everything, right? And then it happened. The numbers changed. The bank account stopped being something you were afraid to look at. You crossed that number. Whatever your number was, 10,000 a month, 100,000 saved, $1 million. The exact number doesn't matter. What matters is you crossed it. You remember that moment, standing in your kitchen, or your car, or your office, staring at the screen. This is it. This is the moment I have been building toward for years. You called someone, your mom, your best friend. I did it. I actually did it. And they were proud, and you laughed, and it felt incredible for about 2 weeks. 2 weeks. That's how long the high lasted. And then the strangest thing happened. You woke up one morning, in your new apartment, your new car outside, money in the bank, and you just lay there, staring at the ceiling, waiting to feel something. Nothing came. This is the part nobody talks about. You have the money, you have the freedom, you have the things, and you feel hollow, like there's an echo where something used to be. You go to the nice restaurant you always dreamed about. You sit at the table, order what you want, no math in your head. And halfway through the meal you think, what's the point of this? You buy the car, the watch, the trip, and for a few hours, maybe a day, it feels like something. Then it's just a thing, another thing in your life. And the worst part, you feel guilty for feeling empty, because you know what it felt like to have nothing. You remember. And this voice in your head says, what is wrong with you? People would kill to have your life. You should be grateful. You should be happy. But gratitude and happiness are not the same thing. No matter how many times you tell yourself to be grateful, The hollow feeling doesn't leave. So you do what most people do. You buy something else. You chase the next goal. You work harder. You fill the silence with noise, podcasts, social media, scrolling, another project, another launch, anything. So you don't have to sit alone with yourself. Because when it's quiet, when there's nothing to distract you, that question surfaces, the question you don't want to answer. Is this it? Let's talk about what is actually happening here. Because this is not weakness, this is not ingratitude, this is science. And it is one of the most important things you will ever learn about yourself. Psychologists call it the hedonic treadmill. And in plain English, here's what it means. Your brain is designed to adapt to everything, the good and the bad. When something terrible happens, you adapt. When something incredible happens, you adapt. That's why studies show lottery winners, within 1 year of winning, report the same happiness levels as before they won. Not a character flaw, your biology doing exactly what it was built to do. Your brain says, okay, this is the new normal. Now what's the next threat? What's the next goal? Keep moving. It was never designed to let you sit in satisfaction. Satisfaction is a pause. Evolution doesn't like pauses, but here's where it gets darker and more personal. When you spend years, building your entire identity around one goal, what happens when you reach it? You don't know who you are anymore. Think about it. For years, your identity was the person who is trying to make it. Your worth came from the struggle, from having something to prove. And then you proved it. And suddenly, who are you? Psychologists call this an identity vacuum, and it's the real reason people feel empty after success. Not because success is bad, because they never built an identity that existed beyond the goal. They outsourced their sense of self to an achievement. And achievements, once achieved, cannot keep paying that debt forever. And while you were grinding, you drifted from people, from hobbies, from the versions of yourself that had nothing to do with productivity. When you finally stopped running, you looked up, and the landscape was completely different. Some friendships had quietly ended. Some relationships had quietly broken. Some version of you, carefree, curious, spontaneous, had quietly retired, and you didn't even notice, because you were too busy building toward a moment that was supposed to make everything make sense. The moment came, it didn't. Let me say something that might sting. Success is isolating. Nobody tells you that. When you make it, whatever that looks like, the dynamic shifts. Some friendships that felt real, they were built on shared struggle. When you're both broke and frustrated, you bond over that. But when one person starts to rise, things get weird, quiet, complicated, and on the other side, new people show up. Lots of them. People who want things from you, opportunities from you, access to you, and you can feel the difference. The energy of someone who sees you versus someone who sees what you have. It gets harder and harder to know which is which. So you pull back. You trust less. You smile at events and feel completely alone in a room full of people. And at night, at the end of a day where everything looks perfect from the outside, you sit with it, the quiet, the question that doesn't leave. What am I actually doing this for? And here's what actually breaks people. Not the emptiness itself, the shame around the emptiness. You look at your life. You know, logically, you have more than most people. You know there are people struggling right now the exact way you used to struggle. So you feel guilty for not being happy. So you perform happiness. On social media, at dinners, on calls with family. Life is great, couldn't be better, really blessed. And you almost believe it, almost. But at 3 a.m, when the phone is face down, when there's no content to scroll, when it's just you feel it, that thing underneath everything, the hollow echo of a life that looks full from the outside. And you think, if this is what winning feels like, what was I even fighting for? I need to tell you something. And I don't want this to just pass through you like background noise. I want it to land. Because this is the part most people never hear until it's too late. The emptiness you feel, it's not a flaw. It's not weakness. It's not you falling off. It's feedback. It's what happens when you spend years filling your life with things that look full from the outside, but don't actually nourish you on the inside. You were taught a version of full that was incomplete. More money, more status, more wins, more proof that you're doing better than before. And to be clear, that path works. It really does. But only in the same way sugar works. It gives you a spike, a hit, a moment where you feel like, yeah, this is it. And then it fades. And not only does it fade, it leaves you hungrier than before. So you chase the next thing, and the next, and the next, until one day you stop and realise you've built a life that looks full, but feels empty. That's not failure. That's awareness finally catching up with your actions. Because there's another way to feel full, a deeper way, a slower one that doesn't scream for attention, but actually sustains you. And no matter where you look, across decades of psychological research, across cultures, across completely different lives, it always comes back to the same 4 things. Not trends, not hacks, not productivity systems. 4 human needs. The first is connection, not the curated version, not the version where you're impressive, not the version where you have it all together. Real connection, the kind where someone sees the parts of you you usually hide, the overthinking, the insecurity, the weirdness, and they don't leave, they stay. That kind of connection doesn't inflate your ego, it calms your nervous system, it reminds you that you don't have to perform to be accepted. The second is contribution. Not performative giving, not doing things just so people can see you're a good person. Real contribution. Knowing that something you did, something small, something quiet, actually made a difference in someone's life, that your presence matters, that your existence shifts something, even slightly. There's a kind of satisfaction in that money can't replicate. The third is growth, but not the kind tied to income, not learn this so you can earn more, not improve this so you can scale. I mean growth that comes from curiosity. Learning something because it fascinates you, getting better at something because it lights something up inside you. No audience, no monetization plan, no outcome, just you. Expanding. That kind of growth makes you feel alive again, and the fourth is presence. This one is the hardest, because most people don't even realise how absent they are. Always thinking ahead, always replaying the past, always documenting, analysing, optimising, rarely just being. Actually experiencing your life as it happens. Not performing it, not filtering it, not turning it into content, just living it. Feeling your own moments instead of observing them from a distance. Now here's the part most people don't want to hear. You cannot buy any of these. You can use money to create space for them. You can remove certain stresses. You can open doors. But the things themselves, they cost something else. They cost your attention, your time, your honesty. They cost vulnerability. They require you to stop being just the successful version of yourself and become a whole human being again. And I know what you might be thinking. What about the version of me I used to be? The one before all this. The curious one. The one who laughed easily. The one who didn't measure everything in outcomes. Here's the truth. That version of you didn't disappear. It didn't die. It didn't get replaced. It got buried. Buried under pressure. Buried under urgency. Buried under the constant need to move forward, achieve more, be more, but buried isn't gone. And that feeling you have right now, that quiet emptiness you can't ignore anymore, that's not the end of something. That's the signal. That's your inner life pushing back, knocking, trying to get your attention, saying, hey, you built everything out there. Now come back in here. And most people ignore that voice. They drown it out with more noise, more goals, more distractions. But if you don't ignore it, if you actually listen, this moment, it won't break you. It will wake you up. So here's where we land. Not at some dramatic finish line, not at a perfect, polished answer, but at something more honest. A moment of truth. You worked for years. Long nights, early mornings, sacrifices you told yourself were temporary. You skipped things, missed things, delayed parts of your life. All for this version of someday, and now you're here. You got what you said you wanted, the money, the stability, the proof that you made it further than you used to be. And yet, Something doesn't feel the way you imagined it would, that quiet gap between what you expected and what you actually feel. That's not failure. That's reality showing up without the filter. Because nobody tells you this part. Nobody tells you that achieving your goals doesn't automatically deliver the emotional experience you attach to them. You thought success would feel like peace, like certainty, like arrival, but instead it feels incomplete. And that doesn't make you broken. It makes you human. Every person who has ever chased something big, really chased it, eventually arrives at this exact moment. Standing there, looking at everything they built, and asking a question they didn't expect. Why doesn't this feel like enough? Some people hit that moment and panic. They interpret the feeling as a problem to fix, so they go back to what they know. They speed up, they chase harder, they set bigger goals, they stack more wins. Because motion feels safer than stillness, because if they stop, they might actually have to feel what's underneath, and that feels terrifying. So they stay on the treadmill, faster, louder, busier, but there's another path, a quieter one, and it doesn't look impressive from the outside. Some people reach this moment, and instead of running from it, they let it open them, not break them, open them. Like a crack in something rigid, where light finally gets in. That's where everything starts to change. Not in big dramatic moves, but in small, almost invisible ones. They call someone they've been meaning to call, and actually stay on the phone longer than usual. They pick up something they used to love, before it had to be productive, before it had to make money. They sit with someone, and instead of waiting for their turn to speak, they actually listen. They go somewhere, not to capture it, not to post it, but just to experience it. They start choosing moments over metrics, and slowly something shifts. They stop building a life that looks successful, and start building one that feels like theirs. Now let's be clear about something. Money is not the enemy here. Money didn't lie to you. Money did exactly what it was supposed to do. It gave you options. It gave you access. It gave you a level of freedom you didn't have before. That's real. But money is a tool, and tools don't decide meaning. You do. The same money can build completely different lives. You can use it to create distance, walls, isolation, a life where everything looks perfect, but nothing feels close. Or you can use it to create space. Space for connection, space for time, space for the parts of life that actually make you feel something real. The question was never just, how do I get the money? That's the surface level question. The deeper one, the one most people avoid, is this: who do I become once I have it? Because getting what you wanted removes your biggest distraction, and now you're left with yourself. No more, when I get there, everything will make sense. You're there. So now what? That answer doesn't come from a formula. There's no shortcut, no step-by-step system, no video that can hand it to you. It comes from sitting with yourself, quietly, honestly, without distractions, long enough to hear something real, and that's uncomfortable, because it requires you to stop performing, even for yourself, but it's also where clarity lives. You spent years chasing a feeling, and somewhere along the way you realised the feeling wasn't where you thought it was. So now you have a choice. Keep chasing the same version of full, or choose a different one. One that isn't louder, but deeper. One that doesn't spike, but lasts. One that isn't about proving something, but actually experiencing something. That's the shift. That's the real work, not building more, but building differently. Not becoming more impressive, but becoming more real. Because at the end of all of this, the goal was never just to have a life that looks good. It was to have one that feels like it's actually yours. And maybe, just maybe, this moment right here is where that finally begins. The goal was never to have more. The goal was always to need less to feel whole. Finance made easy. And maybe that's the part nobody tells you, because the world keeps teaching you to add more money, more success, more proof. But peace was never hiding in more. It was hiding in what you stopped needing. Not needing validation to feel worthy, not needing constant progress to feel enough, not needing noise to avoid your own thoughts, just being okay where you are, as you are. If this hits something in you, even a little, don't ignore it. That feeling, that pause, That quiet moment of, this is true, that's where change begins. Not loud, not dramatic, but real. So here's all I'm asking you to do. One word, just one. Drop a single word in the comments that describes how this made you feel. No overthinking, no perfect answer, just honesty. Because sometimes, one honest word says more than 1,000 empty ones. And yeah, Finance Made Easy reads every single one.